Prime Minister, good morning or good afternoon to you. Hello there.
Hello, dear Secretary Patel. First of all, thank you for your support of our country in the fight against Russian aggression. President Zelensky and I are very grateful to your country for what you are doing.
Well, Prime Minister, let me just thank you first of all for making the time to have this conversation. I think it's just so important. It's actually wonderful and very heartwarming to see you on screen, as well as have this time to hear you and speak with you.
Thank you very much, dear Secretary. We remember how Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan destroyed Soviet Union. Thanks to you, Ukrainians have grown up and followed the Western path. It seems to me that you yourself and in your politics, as if Margaret Thatcher is like you are like an Iron Lady, if it's possible to compare. So my question is: it is a pity that Interpol did not listen to your call and did not exclude Russia. So do you think we still have an opportunity to put pressure on them, or would the US be able to put pressure on some other countries? This is my questions.
Well, I think first of all, Prime Minister, absolutely. The decision, well, actually, it wasn't not just decision, the reaction from Interpol to just put interim measures in, I have to say, is just feeble. It's absolutely feeble. It's very weak. Of Interpol, in my view, they should have just gone for a blanket suspension because of the barbarians that Russia are, basically, and the way in which they abuse Interpol systems. I will be very candid with you. We intend to pursue this, particularly with our Five Eyes colleagues and the Americans in particular. And this is also a test for America to get leaning into the system and to really make sure that we can have tougher measures against Russia. The other point to note, Prime Minister, is that interestingly enough, there are other members of Interpol who feel very strongly, and they're not all EU countries. Kenya is a big ally and a big supporter and a big voice. And in fact, Vice President Ruto was in London last week from Kenya, and this is exactly the point that was being made to him, and they are very pro and supportive. We need to work with the United Arab Emirates. General al-Rashi was elected to Interpol, and of course the United Kingdom supported his election. So we have not finished. We have absolutely not finished on this. We really have not. And there have to be intensive efforts, I think, collectively on this. And that is a commitment that I absolutely make to you and to your country, but also making sure that our allies are more robust. And I think, Prime Minister, if I may say so, not just on Interpol, but on other issues, you see some of our allies working at a different level compared to the United Kingdom. You'll find that we are out there in a very, very strong and forceful way, and there are others trying to catch up.
Yeah, thank you. I think that we can, maybe it would be possible to create a system of countries that would work only at the request of Ukraine. So that would concern our Russian friends, friends of Putin. After all, you will accept all our necessary requests. So we will work with us pretty closely. So I think that we can do that, maybe create such a system. So it would be very useful for us.
Well, Prime Minister, I'm very, very happy to, as I've said, I'm committed. I'm absolutely committed to driving this forward, looking at what more we can absolutely do. And I think the model that you have just proposed is absolutely vital because, again, quite frankly, it is those that stand up for an independent, sovereign, free country versus the friends of Putin and the barbarism that he is effectively, the grotesque aggression that he is inflicting upon Ukraine.
Yes, I agree. Thanks very much. We are glad that the Home Office is ready to simplify the entry procedure for refugees from Ukraine. Ukraine family program is perfect. How many refugees do you think the UK will be able to accept? What do you think?
As of today, as of this morning, we have issued over 4,000 visas for people, for Ukrainian nationals to come to the United Kingdom to be reunited with their family. This is uncapped. There are no limits. Our schemes are very generous and they're very open. As of this afternoon, we will be simplifying the processes, the paperwork, the bureaucracy, and biometric checks will be taken in the UK. And Prime Minister, let me just give you the reassurance and my personal commitment to making this scheme work.
Well, dear Secretary, I hope that the families will not be afraid from our nationalists, as Putin tried to make them fear.
Well, I think, Prime Minister, you're absolutely right. And if I may, we launched the sponsorship scheme yesterday just for people to express their interest on housing Ukrainian nationals.
No, I mean people who are nationalists, as Putin tried to fear all the world, that there are a lot of banders, neo-Nazis. I hope that, I hope that UK citizens are not afraid of them.
Clearly, they're not. For us, the support is very significant here. It really is.
What do you think about the transfer of the property of Russian oligarchs to Ukrainians? Your judicial system stands for the protection of the rights of owners, but the Russians, you know that the Russians are in the blacklist now. I hope you agree with me, and they should be deprived of everything now after what they are doing.
Well, Prime Minister, interestingly enough, our sanctions legislation actually came into law last night. As you know, we have two chambers in our parliament. We have the House of Commons, which is elected, and the upper house. And once legislation goes through the upper house, it then receives royal assent. The upper house sat last night till literally about 3 a.m. this morning to ratify our sanctions legislation, our economic crime bill, which will enable us as a government to do two things, well, many things, but first of all, to clamp down on illicit Russian funds in London, but also in terms of the ability to go after their wealth. And their wealth could be their Ferraris, it could be their properties, it could be all range of assets through new laws that we have brought in.
But I think you agree with me that they should be deprived because of their.
Well, that is absolutely our policy approach,
right.
Absolutely through the sanctions work.
Recently, U.S. Quarters activist cites the mention of oligarch Deripaska. We would like to get it for Mr. Zelensky's residence when he comes to your country. I think it should be very interesting.
Well, the protesters, I think, were still there last night. So our Metropolitan Police in London are busy evicting them. But I think, Prime Minister, absolutely, I hear exactly the case that you are making, and we want to turn this around. We want justice for Ukraine and justice for Ukrainians off the back of the ill-gotten proceeds that Russian oligarchs have basically been, living a very, very fancy and grand life in London. We want to change that.
We hope that many Russian journalists and foundations that have collaborated with the Foreign Office will help catch everyone. I know that the Bellingcat also works with you on that issue, and we should not allow people like Assange to make what they are doing. I know that he tried to drink the blood of your country. By the way, we are pleased with the decision of your fair trial. He drank a lot of your blood, so it's very important, and I hope that you will continue to work with such organization like Bellingcat.
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, Prime Minister, I mean, our approach is very, very clear in terms of, the organisations that we work with, actually to be very transparent about what has been taking place and to speak truth to power and to stand up for some real facts rather than peddling many of the falsehoods and false information in many quarters as well. And of course, in certain cases, such as the Assange case, we have a judicial process that has to work through in the United Kingdom. And when it comes to some of our laws, like extradition, of course, that's in the hands of the courts.
You know, yeah, why I'm asking you. There are many oligarchs in your country, but some may be useful to us too. For example, Mr. Chichwarkin, he can work for Ukraine, help our army financially. And what do you think about Abramovich? I know he has a very strong lobby in England, and he can get away from sanctions, especially because of the problems at the Chelsea club. But there are still many Russian agents influence in the UK. That's why I'm so really
Yeah.
concerned about that.
Yeah, and rightly so, Prime Minister. We are we're highly attuned to this and have actually been for many years. We have been for many, many years. And in fact, my work in this area hasn't just come about because of this crisis. We've been working on foreign agent registration, looking to change our laws for some time. And in fact, I'm bringing forward some legislation that was announced last year on hostile state activity, which covers Russia in a very, very in-depth way, but also looks at many of the issues around foreign agent registration, permissive activity across our institutions, across the state, across cultural organisations and all sorts of educational establishments too. So we are very, very highly attuned to all of this.
No, I mean all of Russians usually support what Putin does now.
Exactly.
So we need to look at them very seriously. We should restrict them until they will not criticize them.
Well, there is work taking place on much of this, as you know, from across the whole of government, Prime Minister. I mean, you'll be speaking to many of my other colleagues as well in government, and we are all working really to put the pressure on Putin, put the pressure on the associated individuals around him, and that is our responsibility. That is our responsibility, and we're making some big changes to our own governance and our own laws, and ensuring that night and day we are doing everything that we possibly can to hold these people to account, quite frankly, for, yes, their association with Putin, but also for the actions as to what is taking place right now, while dealing with illicit finance and many of the wider abuses that have taken place in my country for too long.
No, I mean we have to press them more and more to change the power of Russian government. Now it's pretty dangerous for all Europe, and not only for Europe but also for the UK. And I know you cancel all COVID restrictions, but the Russians who come to you, you can't let them in. Even students, they are all could be KGB or FSB agents. They need to be checked in a special way, I think, not like other nations.
Well, Prime Minister, that's absolutely right. That is absolutely right. And you would expect me to say nothing less on this whole issue. We absolutely have some of the finest security checks, also working with our agencies. That's effectively the approach that we are taking. And as you will totally appreciate and recognise, Prime Minister, we have stepped them up very, very significantly.
Yeah, I agree absolutely. I mean, you could offer. I could offer you a list of questions for Russian, especially. For example, you could ask. Crimea belongs to Ukraine or not, or something. What do you think about Putin? It also could work on to determine who is really Putin supporters.
Sure. No, well, it's no surprise. We have some very, very specialist work taking place on this right now, which clearly we can't go into much detail on, but we're doing everything that we possibly can. Let me give you that assurance.
Thank you very much. I will let President know that we had a conversation. He is in a safety place now, like me. But
Great.
anyway, thank you very much that you are doing. It's very important. I would like to say Slava Ukraini. You know what is it? Glory to Ukraine.
Yeah.
If you say it, also will have good mood for us. If you say Slava Ukraini.
Well, Slava Ukraine, and we were saying this in Parliament last week, Prime Minister, in our Parliament last week as well.
And
so let me just give you that heart back.
And the second is Anglichanka gadit. It means England help us. Anglichanka gadit.
Anglichanka gadit.
Yes, Anglichanka,
Thank you, Prime Minister.
say many thanks to our heroes Vovan and Lexus, who has bombed many Russian airplanes. If you say, I will be very pleased.
Vavan and Lexus, incredible heroes, and thanks to them for the work that they have been doing to
Thank you.
fight for an independent Ukraine. Prime Minister, please give my best wishes as well to President Zelensky. And just to say finally, please take care. You know where we are. We are absolutely shoulder to shoulder. We stand alongside you in every way. It's been a real privilege to speak to you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you too.